Welcome to the Configure Price Quote podcast. My name is Frank Sohn and I'm the founder of No CPQ Consulting. This podcast is 100% focused on Configure Price Quote, also known as CPQ, and will provide you useful insights into this topic. My guest today is Chris Hergesell. Chris is the Managing Director for North America B2B Sales and Commerce Lead and the Global B2B Sales and Commerce Product Lead at Accenture. He has 18 years of business experience working with global clients and implementing strategic initiatives. Chris was previously on the podcast, but that was 3 years ago, so I'm very excited to have him back. He is based in Houston, Texas. Welcome back to the CPQ podcast, Chris.
Hey, Frank, glad to be back. Thanks for having me.
Very excited to have you back. It took me 3 years, so I have to apologize. But let's maybe start for our listeners by telling us a little bit more about yourself and what you did before you joined Accenture last year.
Yeah. So I've been with Accenture about a year. Prior to that, I was with a Big Four consulting firm with Ernst & Young for about 13 years. And so made the shift over to Accenture. Really exciting, dynamic place to be. And in this role, I'm really focused on the entire B2B landscape and how we help our clients transform their front office in the B2B space, thinking holistically across everything from marketing to sales to channels to customer success to service and customer experience. So really a broad and interesting set of capabilities to focus on.
Yeah, you truly have a very large area of responsibility. So but aside from that, what's for you personally the biggest difference working for Ernst & Young now versus Accenture?
Yeah, that's a hard question to answer. It's two different companies. I'll say that what's amazing about Accenture is just the global scale and the breadth of services that we bring to bear, and our ability to really help our clients with the most complex problems that they may have, and really helping them address those, and then really being forward-looking and future-looking, and developing really advanced capabilities that allow them to compete better in the marketplace.
Excellent. And then one thing I have to ask you is, you're in the job now for a year. When you look back right now, what do you like or dislike the most about the new job?
I think I'll talk about what I like, because I'm generally a positive person. What I really like is I like that we are truly a global firm, and that I get to work with clients that are all over the world to address their needs, and that ability of Accenture to be able to work seamlessly across borders and bring together really incredible talent, incredible capability, both from a functional as well as technology standpoint, has really been an absolute delight. So it's really been a great past year now.
Glad to hear. Now, what are people generally surprised to find out about you, Chris?
What are they surprised to find out about me? I sound American and I act American, and I am American. I'm also German and I'm also Portuguese. So I'm actually a triple citizen. And spent most of my formative years outside of the U.S., living in Egypt and Indonesia and Chile and a bunch of other places. So I think the message behind there is don't always judge a book by its cover. Sometimes you look at people and you see one thing, but there's a whole lot more behind there.
That's very interesting. But I mean, a little bit as a giveaway, Hergesell, the name, right? So sounds a little bit German. So, but Very interesting. So when you did that, did you also go to university abroad then, or did you do that in the US?
No. I studied here in the U.S. I went to college in Boston, and I'd actually never been to Boston before I decided that's where I was going to go to college. And I think having grown up in mostly tropical or subtropical climates, I didn't quite appreciate how cold it gets in Boston. So I froze my way through 4 years of college.
Excellent. Yeah, I think that was very good. So thanks for sharing that. Now let's talk a little bit about Accenture, right? So what CPQ related consulting services does Accenture offer from your point of view?
Yeah, so we service essentially all industries by and large. So we've broken out our coverage into 19 different industry groups that then coalesce into 5 larger industry groups, and so we provide services across all of those to help our clients. Not all industries have the same level of need around front office transformation. So if you think about call it like the airline industry, for example, it's a very specialized industry, and the broader sales transformation, front office transformation is probably less relevant there. So across all the industry groups that we serve, where there is a front office component to it, we provide some level of services, and our geographic coverage is pretty much global. So certainly we're bigger in some industries than others, or some geographies than others, I should say. But we really have a presence in most every place where business is done around the world, and the clients that we're serving are generally larger organizations, not exclusively, but they tend to be in the multiple $1 billion of revenue range and above, as far as size goes.
Got it. And what would you say? How many CPQ specialists are working at Accenture?
Oh my, that's a really hard question to answer, because they're stratified into multiple different groups depending on the platform, and then on geography. So is it in the thousands? Probably. When you take into account all of our offshore teams that are doing configuration, it's the numbers get up there pretty quickly. And then of course we have people that dabble in it, I guess you could say, right? You've got people that do kind of a one-off project as a part of a larger front office transformation and a CRM implementation where they're touching CPQ. So different levels of expertise, but then also spread across different geographies and different teams.
Anyway, you have a very large practice with lots of people in different locations, so I think that's probably a fair statement.
I think that's right.
And what other solutions do you see frequently implemented with CPQ? You always have these 3-letter acronyms like the PLM, CLM, CRM, document management, and others. What is most common for a CPQ project based on your experience?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I love the 3-letter acronym language. I think when I look at what our clients are trying to achieve, if we go back to what the business problem is that they're trying to solve, ultimately they're trying to sell faster, sell smarter, sell a bigger basket of goods, price more intelligently, remove manual drudge work from their sellers, and then ultimately drive to a better customer experience on the back end. And CPQ is very central to that, but there are all these other tools that we often see engaged as well. And CRM is very commonly in the middle of that, and in some capacity an enabler of that future state. And then depending on the specific use cases that the client is trying to unlock, there may be elements of CLM, document management. And so, it varies a little bit, I guess I would say, Frank. There's in some cases they already have a technology and they're married to it, and all they're trying to do is focus on just core CRM. In other cases, there are it's kind of a blank slate type of approach where they're trying to go and replace all of these systems. I have a client I'm working with today, and they're basically replatforming front to back across virtually every single one of their technologies, not just the front office technologies, so marketing automation, CRM, CPQ, CLM, ICM, but then also, on the back end, their ERP systems and their manufacturing systems. So, different levels of ambition depending on the specific client situation and what issues they're trying to address.
That's a very massive project.
That's it's a big project indeed. Yeah.
And how, in general, right now, how would you characterize the current demand for CPQ solutions with your customers? You see any differences per region, for example?
Yeah, I think we see strong demand in the US and strong demand in Europe for CPQ solutions. If I reflect back on when I implemented my very first CPQ solution 12 years ago, we didn't really know what CPQ was, right? It was a bit of a novelty back then. And I think in the meantime, what we've seen is that everybody knows what CPQ is. If you talk to folks who live in the front office, CPQ is an understood term. Even if perhaps in the details it's not fully understood, but people know by and large what it does, and have come to understand that it's a critical enabler of their commercial excellence and how they go to market. And again, there are differences based on industry and and geography. I think with all things technology, including CPQ, when we look at our software and high tech and platforms businesses, those clients tend to be very early adopters of new technology, and so you see a very common usage of CPQ. As you move into other industries, more mature industries or technology laggards, the CPQ concept has not been as broadly implemented as in the technology side. So some differences industry by industry as well from my perception.
And do you see any impact from the current economic worries about inflation, recession, and so on? Has that impacted your pipeline?
I think businesses are being cautious in terms of making investments, especially if there's not an understood return on investment. So I think greater caution and greater fiscal oversight and a little more conservatism. But where there's clear value to drive change and implement new technologies, many of those projects are still moving forward. I think there's an understanding broadly across our clients that their environment is getting more competitive. And in order to compete, they need to be agile, they need to be automated, they need to be able to respond to changing customer needs and respond to uncertainty in the market, some of which is controllable and some of which is not. And in order to be able to respond, they need the kinds of technologies that drive that kind of agility. And so it's a very long answer to a very short question that you posed, but I think the answer is we continue to see strong demand from businesses that realize they need to make these kinds of investments.
Novo CPQ Consulting helps you with all CPQ related questions. For example, we help customers to find the best CPQ solution for their business, and we help customers analyze their current business process to determine if and where CPQ can help. Here it's important to point out that we are 100% independent and always look out for our customers first. This means for us also that we don't get paid by any CPQ vendor for providing them new customers or for any other services. We are focused on our customers and always provide the best available information to them. We also help system integrators to improve their services, and we offer the only CPQ industry subscription that provides monthly CPQ news and trends. We have many other services, so check it out today at novocpq.com. Send me an email to frank.sohn@novocpq.com to learn how we can help you with your CPQ questions, and keep us in mind when you look for 100% impartial CPQ advice. And what are the top business requirements that your customers are asking you for? And as always, it would be good to have 3 examples here.
Yeah, I'll try to figure out what 3 are here on the fly, Frank. I would say, the number one thing that we always hear is we need to be easier to do business with. That's far and away like the number one objective. We need to be easier to do business with. Our own processes are too complex, and we take too long to turn around a quote, and our customers expect a better experience. And I think that top priority is also largely driven out of just these changing customer expectations, where all of the B2C buying expectations have really embedded themselves into the B2B buying experience. And so people in a B2B buying environment, they want it to be like Amazon. And many of our clients just are completely not equipped to be able to provide that service. And that doesn't just extend to a sales rep driven CPQ enabled transaction. It also moves into the other ways that they want to buy more self-service. They want to, they're transacting with channel partners in some cases. So there are myriad routes to market that customers are following, multiple different ways they're engaging with a company. And they want a seamless experience. They want to have consistent pricing. They want to have fast turnaround. And so, the companies are really trying to drive to that by implementing these technologies that allow them to do that.
Excellent. So since we talked about the 3 top business requirements here, then let's also see when you actually run these CPQ implementation projects I'm talking about, then what are the biggest challenges that your customers still run into?
Yeah, I from my perspective, CPQ has always been a really fascinating space, and it's because it sits really at the heart of your business, right? It's the intersection between the front office and the back office, and there are threads there into your product development, into legal, into pricing, into finance, and the technology. I'm going to oversimplify here. The technology is the easy part. The hard part is everything else. So what is it that you're going to sell? What is your bundling strategy? How are you going to drive cross-sell, upsell? How are you going to handle your pricing and discounting rules? All of those things are all heavily dependent on defining business rules and business logic and making business decisions about how you want to operate your business going forward. And that's the hard part. I find businesses really struggle to define define those rules and determine how they want to go to market. And CPQ is really a forcing function to make that happen. As you go and you implement this CPQ solution, you've got to make these decisions that previously perhaps you could get away from, and so that's really what I see as the hardest thing is having businesses make those business decisions.
Got it. Very good. So now, Chris, I would like to ask you a couple of things about CPQ. And it's like a speed round, right? So it's really just, I give you a CPQ capability, feature, something, and want to see what you think about that, right? So what do you think, for example, product configuration stands now in regards to CPQ tools? Is that still important?
Yeah, I think product configuration is really important. But again, I think it depends on the specific industry that you're looking at. So that functionality where you have some level of complex product configuration, you just drive to a configured product. In that type of a scenario, it's important. In other scenarios, it's unimportant as a part of a CPQ implementation.
Very good point. So because, you have very different capabilities in that regard, right? What do you think about pricing and advanced pricing? So advanced pricing would be like, for example, price optimization. How important is that?
Yeah, I think pricing optimization is important. We see clients using dedicated tools to manage their pricing. And then exposing it through CPQ. And again, I hate to say it depends, but it depends, right? It depends on really how pricing is managed, how much pricing complexity there is for a given client, and how much of it they've already got figured out elsewhere in a different part of their tech stack.
Fair enough. Quoting and document management. Lots of solutions have added that in the last couple of years to their offering. How important is that for a lot of your customers?
Yeah, I think, for me, CPQ, like it's lowercase c, lowercase p, uppercase q, simply because the quoting is probably the most universally used aspect of this, right? Trying to get a quote out the door, whether there's no product configuration, but there are 10,000 line items, or whether, there's some base level configuration, but the pricing is pretty standard, but I still need to be able to create a quote to the customer and progress the sales cycle. So the quoting and the integration of quoting into opportunities and being able to use that for pipeline management, those are the kinds of things that I think are really core to many of the CPQ use cases that I see.
And how about machine learning, artificial intelligence? These have been hype terms for quite a while. Do you still see lots of customers looking into that, asking you for it?
It is AI and machine learning is definitely a topic that comes up all the time. I think it's becoming perhaps a little bit less exotic, meaning that it was a bit of a novelty, and now our clients are saying, look, we know that we need to have this. This is a functionality that we need to turn on. And so that's understood. I think fully realizing the value of AI and ML is still in development, right? Like I think I've yet to see the fully AI enabled Salesforce. There's a lot of experimentation going on. There are some point solutions that have been deployed by clients that really do some really cool things in some cases in terms of product recommendations and so forth. But I think it's still in development. There's the foundation is that there's a base level understanding, education of what it does. There's also an acknowledgement that it's not magic. It's logic, and so they're they're looking at how they can use it more, but nobody is really using it at scale broadly to operationalize their sales organization.
Got it. Fair point. Now, how about visual configuration, right? So think car manufacturers and stuff like this, where you build a car. How important is that for your customers? And since we talk about visual, maybe also mention something about virtual. So virtual reality, how many customers ask for that from your point of view?
I think the visual configuration is largely constrained to very specific use cases. So, in pockets in manufacturing, in retail, those types of environments, where you're trying to really show the customer what their product's going to look like and how it's going to look on a factory floor, for example. Those, that's the direction that this is heading in, and the next logical iteration is Metaverse and enabling this via virtual. And we have clients that we're working with on that, more of a kind of experimentation phase to see where we can take this and where it can go. I would say this is another one of these technologies that is just really still in early days. You can see the promise of Metaverse. I just think that this is the technology needs to get better, and there are probably also still some behavioral changes that need to happen within the customer base. People just don't generally think, well, I'm going to put on an Oculus headset and I'm going to configure my factory floor. I think it's we're not quite there yet.
Very much agree. So then the last question in this set of questions, right? So there's a lot of adjacent capabilities like billing, e-signature, document management, revenue recognition. How much? What do you think about that? What do you think about these capabilities in regards to CPQ? How important are they?
Well, I think that they can all be very important as a component part of enabling an overall business process. And it's really going to vary depending on what the specific business is trying to accomplish. And if they're trying to move to an as-a-service business model, then things like your RevRec systems and your subscription billing systems, et cetera, all become really important. And so it's going to vary depending on what it is that the business is trying to achieve. Again, for us, what's really most critical is to start with the business in mind and what it is that they're trying to achieve, and how they create a better customer experience. And then we go back from there and determine what technologies are needed to enable that. And so if e-signature enables that better experience, and the contracting requires an e-signature as a part of the policies that they've defined, then we think it's a valuable capability.
Got it. Makes sense. Now, one question I have to ask here is also, where do you see the CPQ market going in the next 12 months? You think it will continue at the current speed or it will slow down? Where do you see it generally going?
I think that, first of all, I think CPQ is here to stay. I think CPQ continues to be a critical enabler for companies to improve their commercial excellence and to improve their lead to order process efficiency and effectiveness. And as long as companies are trying to drive greater efficiency and effectiveness from that process, they're going to make these investments. I don't think that we will see a huge slowdown in projects around this space. I think it's too mission critical And with all of the uncertainty around inflation and around demand, the ability for businesses to be agile and respond to market externalities, respond to changing market conditions is more critical than ever.
Chris, I couldn't agree more, but unfortunately we're coming to the end of this episode. Hence my last question is, what's a good way for interested listeners to contact you or your team in case they have any follow-up questions for you?
Yeah, digital first. So LinkedIn is the way to find me. So look me up on LinkedIn, and happy to chat with you.
Excellent. We will have all this information in the show notes. Chris, thank you very much for making time for the CPQ podcast today.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Frank. Good to talk to you again.
I'd like to thank everyone for listening and hope you learned something interesting today. If you like the podcast, please go ahead and rate it on iTunes or share it with your friends and colleagues. In the meantime, you can find us online at www.novocpq.com. So long, everyone.